26. Actually, I have a lot of freaking email to do. Oh my goodness, what is that noise? It sounds like Titanic. Genesis 26, that's where I'm at. It's a long chapter.
Chapter 26. Isaac deceives Abimelech. A severe famine now struck the land, as it happened before in Abraham's time. So Isaac moved to Gerar, where Abimelech, king of the Philistines, lived. The Lord appeared to Isaac and said, "Do not go down to Egypt, but do as I tell you. Live here as a foreigner in this land, and I will be with you and bless you. I hereby confirm that I will give all these lands to you and your descendants, just as I solemnly promised Abraham your father. I will cause your descendants to become as numerous as the stars of the sky, and I will give them all these lands. And through your descendants, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. I will do this because Abraham listened to me and obeyed all my requirements, commands, decrees, and instructions." So Isaac stayed in Gerar. When the men who lived there asked Isaac about his wife, Rebekah, he said, "She is my sister." He was afraid to say, "She is my wife." He thought, "They will kill me to get her, because she is so beautiful." But some time later, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out his window and saw Isaac caressing Rebekah. Immediately, Abimelech called for Isaac and exclaimed, "She is obviously your wife. Why did you say she is my sister?" "Because I was afraid someone would kill me to get her from me," Isaac replied. "How could you do this to us?" Abimelech exclaimed. "One of my people might easily have taken your wife and slept with her, and you would have made us guilty of great sin." Then Abimelech issued a public proclamation. "Anyone who touches this man or his wife will be put to death." Conflict over water rights. When Isaac planted his crops that year, he harvested 100 times more grain than he planted, for the Lord blessed him. He became a very rich man, and his wealth continued to grow. He acquired so many flocks of sheep and goats, herds of cattle and servants, that the Philistines became jealous of him. So the Philistines filled up all of Isaac's wells with dirt. These were the wells that had been dug by the servants of his father Abraham. Finally, Abimelech ordered Isaac to leave the country. "Go somewhere else," he said, "for you have become too powerful for us." So Isaac moved away to the Gerar Valley, where he set up their tents and settled down. He reopened the wells his father had dug, which the Philistines had filled in after Abraham's death. Isaac also restored the names Abraham had given them. Isaac's servants also dug in the Gerar Valley and discovered a well of fresh water. But then the shepherds from Gerar came and claimed the spring. "This is our water," they said, and they argued over it with Isaac's herdsmen. So Isaac named the well Esek, which means argument. Isaac's men then dug another well, but again there was a dispute over it, so Isaac named it Sitnah, which means hostility. Abandoning that one, Isaac moved on and dug another well. This time there was no dispute over it, so Isaac named the place Rehoboth, which means open space. For he said, "At last the Lord has created enough space for us to prosper in this land." From there, Isaac moved to Beersheba, where the Lord appeared to him on the night of his arrival. "I am the God of your father Abraham," he said. "Do not be afraid, for I am with you and will bless you. I will multiply your descendants, and they will become a great nation. I will do this because of my promise to Abraham, my servant." Then Isaac built an altar there and worshipped the Lord. He set up his camp at that place, and his servants dug another well. Isaac's covenant with Abimelech. One day, King Abimelech came from Gerar with his advisor, Ahuzeth, and also Pikol, his army commander. "Why have you come here?" Isaac asked. "You obviously hate me since you kicked me off your land." They replied, "We can plainly see that the Lord is with you, so we want to enter into a sworn treaty with you. Let's make a covenant. Swear that you will not harm us, just as we have never troubled you. We have always treated you well, and we sent you away from us in peace. And now look how the Lord has blessed you." So Isaac prepared a covenant feast to celebrate the treaty, and they ate and drank together. Early the next morning, they each took a solemn oath not to interfere with each other. Then Isaac sent them home again, and they left him in peace. That very day, Isaac's servants came and told him about a new well they had dug. "We've found water," they exclaimed. So Isaac named the well Shibah, which means oath. And to this day, the town that grew up there is called Beersheba, which means well of the oath. At the age of 40, Esau married 2 Hittite wives, Judith, the daughter of Berai, and Besmeth, the daughter of Elon. But Esau's wives made life miserable for Isaac and Rebekah.
Is this another article? Yeah, it is. It says Jacob, Isaac, and Jacob are among the most significant people in the Old Testament. This isn't based upon their personal character, but rather upon the character of God. They were all men who earned the granting, respect, and even fear of the other peers. They were wealthy and powerful, yet each was capable of lying, deceit, and selfishness. They were not the perfect heroes we might have expected. Instead, they were just like us, trying to please God, but often falling short. Jacob was the firstling in God's plan to start a nation from Abraham. The success of the plan was more than in spite of and even because of Jacob. Before Jacob was born, God promised that his plan would be worked out through Jacob and not his own brother. That's why God promised that methods were not always respectable. Skill, determination, and patience have to be admired. As we follow him from birth to death, we are able to see God's work. Jacob's life, 4 stages, each marked by a personal encounter with God. In the first stage, Jacob lived up to his name, which means he grabs the hill figuratively he decides to use. He grabbed Ezra's hill at birth, and by the time he fled from home, he had also grabbed his brother's birthright and blessing. During this fight, God had first appeared to him. Not only did God confirm to Jacob his blessing, but he also awakened in Jacob's personal knowledge of him. In the second stage, Jacob experienced life from the other side, being manipulated and deceived by Laban. But there is a curious change at Jacob of stage 1 would simply have left Laban, whereas Jacob of stage 2, after deciding to leave, waited 6 years for God's permission. In the third stage, Jacob was in new role as a grabber. This time by Lake Jordan River, he grabbed one to God and wouldn't let go. God changed his name to Israel. God fights. Jacob would no longer be the self-sufficient and proud individual he once was. He would become dependent on God and hold on him in responding to Joseph's invitation to come to Egypt, and Jacob was clearly unwilling to make a move without God's approval. Can you think of times when God has made himself known to you? Do you allow yourself to meet him as you study his Bible? What difference have these experiences made in your life? Are you more like the young Jacob, forcing God to track you down in the desert of your own plans and mistakes? Or are you more like the older Jacob, who presented desire and plans to God for his approval and before taking any action? The lessons from his life: security does not lie in the imitation, the accumulation of goods. All humans' attention and actions, for good or evil, are wombing by God into his ongoing plan. If we would, I don't understand hardly of this Old Testament. It's difficult to understand sometimes. Because I'd rather read the freaking New Testament. But I gotta keep reading the Old Testament to understand parts still of the New Testament. Because the Old Testament is part of the New Testament. Because the Old Testament prophesies about Jesus Christ. And the lessons from the people in the Bible of the Old Testament about how they were saved before Christ had to come. Because they use animals for the sacrificial of their sins and stuff. Goat, sheep. So Genesis chapter 26 is teaching about Isaac. I guess about his fighting warrior selfishness. About his lying as familiar with Abraham. The same thing seemed to happen to Abraham in the Bible in Genesis, where he lied and said Sarah was his sister. And we see like Jacob. Is it Jacob or Isaac? No, it's... I'm like so confused right now. Isaac doing the same thing similar to what Abraham did in Genesis. I probably got confused because I read that article of Jacob. He was afraid to trust God to tell them that it was his wife because he thought that they would kill him. So failing to trust God. And then the people saw him as blessed as they was looking at his life and could tell he was blessed. Maybe it's the same as the people here. They could see I'm blessed. That I got somewhere to live now. And I'm getting help from people. Oh. So the last thing is about like selfishness sharing. Genesis 26 and trusting God, I could say, is what I'm getting out of it. Genesis chapter 26. Genesis. So I got out of reading the chapter. My understanding. How do you spell Isaac? Isaak? I mean, Isaac. Selfish. I don't know how to spell. So it says, yes, you are absolutely right in your understanding of the key themes and meaning of Genesis 26. The main points you identified are this chapter is focused on the life and experiences of the patriarch Isaac. The central themes revolve around selfishness. There are instances where Isaac displays selfish and deceptive behavior and trust in God alongside the selfish acts. The chapter also highlights moments where Isaac demonstrates faith and obedience to God. So in summary, your understanding is correct. Genesis 26 is primarily about the life of Isaac and then contrasting things of human selfishness versus trust submission to God's will emerge through the events described in. You've done an excellent job of extracting the core meaning and lessons from the biblical passage, recognizing these of effeminate tensions between human weakness and ungodly trust obedience is crucial for gleaning the spiritual insights that the biblical offers attempt to convey. Can you elaborate on the selfishness? Let's take a closer look at Genesis 26, where Isaac displays selfish or deceptive behavior, lying about Rebekah being his wife. When the men of Ger asked about Rebekah, Isaac lies and says she is his sister, fearing they will kill him to take her as a wife. This is similar to the deception his father Abraham had committed earlier regarding Sarah. Isaac's selfishness and lack of trust in God led him to protect himself through dishonesty. As Isaac proffers in his flocks and herds and growth conflicts arise with the herdsmen of Ger over control of the wells, Isaac keeps moving and digging new wells rather than trying to resolve the disputes peacefully. This suggests a selfish desire to claim resources for himself rather than seeking to share or compromise. Let's read the notes in the Bible. Genesis chapter 26 verse 1, the Philistines would become some of Israel's fierce enemies. They were one group of a number of migrating sea peoples from the Aegean Sea who had settled in Canaan, and they arrived by the way of Crete in Cyprus and were used as mercenaries by Canaanite rulers. These people living along the southwest coast were few but fierce in battle. Although friendly to Isaac, the small group was the forerunner of the nation that would plague Israel during the days of Joshua, the judges, and David. This King Amalek was not the same Amalek that Abraham encountered in Genesis 20 verse 21. Genesis chapter 20 and Genesis chapter 21. Amalek, which means my father is king, was likely a dynastic name used by the Philistine rulers. In Genesis chapter 26, verse 7 and 11, Isaac was afraid that the man and girl would kill him to get his beautiful wife Rebekah, so he lied, claiming that Rebekah was his sister. Where did he learn that trick? He made known about it the actions of his father Abraham. Parents help shape the world's future by the way they shape their children's values. The first step toward helping children live right is for parents to live right. Your actions are often copied by those closest to you. What kind of example are you setting for those who look up to you, your children? In Genesis chapter 26, verse 12-16, God kept his promise to bless Isaac. The neighboring Philistines grew jealous. Same situation, and we go through jealousy because of everything or materialism that we have. A nice car, they jealous. People around us, we're getting help, we're jealous, sadly, but they are. It's acts of Satan, so they feel well as dirt and try to get rid of him because they were jealous of him. Jealousy is a dividing force, strong enough to tear apart the mightiest of nations or the closest of friends. It often ends up separating you from what you were longing for in the first place. When you find yourself becoming jealous of others, try thanking God for the good fortune. Before striking in anger, consider what you could lose: a friend, a job, a spouse. In Genesis chapter 26, verse 17-22, 3 times Isaac and his men dug new wells, and when the first 2 disputes arose, Isaac moved on. When the third well was dug, room was finally available for everyone. Rather than start a huge conflict, Isaac compromised for the sake of peace. Would you be willing to forsake an important portion or valuable possession to keep peace? Ask God for the wisdom to know when to withdraw and when to stand and fight. In Genesis chapter 26, 17, verse 18, the desert year was located on the edge of dry wilderness. Water was as precious as gold. A person who dug a well was staking a claim to the land. Some wells had locks to keep thieves from stealing the water. To fill in someone's well with dirt was an act of war, and it was one of the most serious crimes in the land. Isaac had every right to fight back when the Philistines ruined his wells, yet he chose to keep the peace. In the end, the Philistines respected him for his patience. In Genesis chapter 26, verse 26, verse 31, and with the enemies wanting to make a peace treaty, Isaac was quick to respond, turning the occasion into a celebration. We should be just as receptive to those who want to make peace with us. When God's influence in our lives attracts people, even enemies, we must take the opportunity to reach out to them with God's love. In Genesis chapter 26, verse 44, verse 35, Esther married a pagan woman, and this upset his parents greatly. Most parents can be a storehouse of good advice because they have a lifetime of insight into their children's character. We may not agree with everything our parents say, but it's best at least to talk with them and listen carefully. This will help us avoid the hard feelings as well as experience